classics. Let's go to the movies and share some popcorn, soda pop with our friends. Turn off our cell phones and get away. Night or day, it's John DeSando on the radio. We'll watch the credits.
Cinema Classics is produced by John DeSando. It airs Thursdays at 8:01 p.m. on WCBE 90.5 FM. Listen to shows and read reviews online at WCBE.org.
I'm John DeSando.
And I'm G Kline.
And this is Cinema Classics. Now, Ken, regardless of what your super critical sensibility says about Killers of the Flower Moon, I think we have a classic here.
Anytime a new Martin Scorsese film comes out, we're very noteworthy. We don't have very many of them, and this is more of Martin Scorsese than we've ever had before.
I'll tell you, in anticipation of our Double Take podcast, after we do the Cinema Classics, I started looking at his filmography. Ken, what a splendid filmography, my goodness.
He is one of the great masters, there's no arguing that.
Wow.
He is capable of some amazing works of cinema.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about Goodfellas, we're talking...
Stop it now, stop it. Right,
and we can go on and on.
I know we can,
but we have a short amount of time to talk about a very, very long movie. And notice I said long. This is not an epic movie, this is a long movie.
Well, it has epic qualities to it. That is its subject matter, the killings in the Osage tribe back in the 20s. There are things that were epic happening that I thought he captured. Now, there are things that he missed, of course. Like, I'm very disappointed that he didn't do more with the Osage tribe. That he's once again so in love with
that is absolutely
male
true.
actors.
So the movie starts out in 1917 after an extremely lengthy prologue that reminds me of the opening of the Beverly Hillbillies.
Oh, here we go.
Where you have the Osage Indians who originally started in Arkansas and Alabama were driven from their lands by federal authorities and kicked around quite a bit before they finally purchased, with the last little bit of money they had, a worthless scrap of land in northeastern Oklahoma, along with its mineral rights. They settled.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, all 3,400 of them left, settled on this worthless piece of prairie, only to discover a few years later that it has one of the largest oil deposits in North America. And suddenly the Osage Indians go from having just the clothes on their back to being the wealthiest people in North America per capita.
Yeah, they're worth millions each.
Yeah, well, they're gaining anywhere from $12,000 a year to $160,000 a year on what they call head rights, which is your portion of the oil revenues. So a family of four could be bringing in $300,000 or $400,000 a year if they were full-blooded Osage.
And what do they call them? The government will not allow them to oversee their own wealth.
Well, they were ruled to be incompetent. Of course, when there's that much money involved, the state government and unfortunately, I'm going to use the word white people, have to get involved right away, and they rule them incompetent to be able to manage this amount of money, so they are appointed trustees to oversee their money. These people who have $100,000 or more in the bank can't spend $3 on a bar of soap without a white person telling them they have permission to do so.
It is cringing, along with the almost 30 murders they know of. There's stuff going on here, and you mentioned it, the white men. And the white men here in charge are Leo and Robert De Niro.
Well, in this film, those are the people in charge. Now, the truth is, it was a much, much broader thing, which we'll get to later. But the movie opens again, 1917. Ernest Hale has returned from World War I. He is a simple-minded fellow who was a cook in World War I, played beautifully by Leonardo DiCaprio.
He does a good job.
Underplayed one of his most complicated and fascinating roles. However, he comes home to his uncle, King Hale, who is the king of Osage County. He is a very friendly person with the Indians. He is very supportive of them. He's built schools, he's built hospitals, he's built everything you can think of to support them using money that he seems to be earning from his cattle ranch.
Yeah,
However,
this is Robert, played by
this
Robert.
is played by Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro and Leonardo DiCaprio back together again after 30 years.
De Niro with his sneer.
De Niro with his
Nobody
sneer.
can do it, yeah, better than he can.
And of course, De Niro has seen, for the living among the Indians, that there is a great deal of wealth here that should be coming to the white man, namely him.
So they're offering ladies in the Osage tribe in order to get a handle on the head rights.
Well, to get the money from the oil, you have to marry into an Osage family. So originally, the plan is for King to get his young nephew to marry an Osage woman, and then make sure that the money, through process of elimination of all of her other family members, ends up all in her hands, and then we just off her, and now all the money belongs to King and his nephew.
And I think that one of the brilliances of the movie is with Scorsese working with DiCaprio to make a little more complicated character than the simple-minded one that first appears in the film. And he's simple-minded throughout, but yet his feelings for Molly, who stole the show.
And now we can talk about Molly. Yes, played by Lily Gladstone.
Yes, exactly.
Lily Gladstone. She steals this movie.
She'll be nominated.
She will be nominated. She's got a good chance of winning. She plays this role so subtle, and there is real chemistry between her and Leonardo DiCaprio. It's palpable.
Yeah, I love it. It's a sincere problem that is the problem for underneath all of this. Leo's character Ernest is really going after the head rights, and he will spare nothing to get there, along with the help of his
But
uncle.
you get the sense that Leo's character is in his heart is not an evil person.
Oh, no, I agree, and that's why I emphasize that simple-minded. I don't think he's even complicated
He is
enough to
being
be bad.
manipulated and toyed by his uncle in this organized crime syndicate.
Yes.
And here is where this movie takes a sharp turn, is you and I would have read the book Killers of the Flower Moon, and we would have seen this as a story about the repression of the Native Americans and just the rampant racism that existed in America in the 1920s that would allow this whole thing to set in motion. Scorsese reads this book and he sees a mobster gangster story. And of course he would.
No, I think you're right. And that's why I come back to I find that the Osage tribe had so much potential, and that he really, while he gives you some of the cultural touchstones, including their costumes and even their cars and their homes and so on, things that happen to the Osage tribe. With the exception of Molly, I just don't get anything more. So enthralled is Martin Scorsese with his bad boys that he makes them. I think you make a really good point. Now, secondly, let me add to yours, not quite as flashy as your point, but my point is, hey, I want more about this FBI. Jesse Plemons is just way too good.
He is fantastic. Now, he plays the federal agent. It's not the FBI yet.
No.
In fact, the book is really about the story of the formation of the FBI and how this particular case, the Osage Reign of Terror, as it was called, caused the FBI to come into existence.
Yes.
The book starts about 2 hours into the movie. So the first 2 hours of the movie is the backstory that the book didn't deal with.
Yeah.
But absolutely, once the federal agents show up, which is about 2 hours into the movie, it takes an interesting turn because suddenly you've got Leonardo DiCaprio's character running scared to his uncle when up to this point he's felt fearless and able to do what he wishes. And then you see the uncle becoming more and more defiant, and he is the crime syndicate boss. He is the one that feels he is immune.
You know, one of my interpretations of this is that De Niro is doing a superb job of balancing between good and bad, and that even in the end of this story, it's never quite certain how good he is. We can see how bad he is, but how good he is because he has in his web of deceit over the people, he has given them schools. I mean, he has done a great deal of charitable business.
And that's one of the sad things about the story that doesn't get a chance to evolve, is that he was really concerned for making his community better. And he would have been, to people in the community at the time, he would have been a hero, particularly to the white members of the community, because he was taking this money and funneling it in and making the community better. But at the same time, racism was so endemic in this society that the idea that he was killing people in order to get more money would have been forgivable at that time.
Yeah.
It would have been, okay, well, yeah, he's killing a few Indians, but that money is going into the community and he's bettering the community, so it all washes out.
Yeah, and at that time in the 20s, as we're moving toward the big crash, and we have a time when paying attention to this wasn't something they would do. Here we have this devastation going on, this racism beyond belief, and we barely.
The police were a part of it as well. The
Yeah.
police were probably among the people killing the Indians. There was just nowhere that the Osage could go to seek justice until they finally give $20,000 to the federal government and ask the federal government to come in and please investigate this.
Very sweet little shot scene with Coolidge and Molly when she goes to ask him for help. Very cool, very understated.
Wonderful, wonderful scene. But as you were saying, if there's one failing, and this movie is worth seeing. Let's not stop here.
Oh, come on, worth seeing. It's the best movie of the year.
So far. If you can stomach a 3.5
So you agree
hour
with that?
movie, I would agree that it is one of the best movies of the year.
Oh, there you go.
I still put Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse ahead.
God, that's Spider-Man.
But you're not going to get Spider-Man out of me. But that I would say that if you can stomach a long 3.5 hour movie that does have some slow parts, I mean, you will have moments when you're looking at your watch going, how long is this movie?
All right, and I will end up our little conversation before we get to the podcast. They have to go to the podcast experience in order to listen to what we have to say about, particularly Martin Scorsese. I'd like to say that if you could endure Oppenheimer, you can endure this. Both of them are very long, over 3 hours, and both of them have something historically very serious to say. So I agree with you that it is possible to be a put-off, but if you realize how significant both of them are.
My problem with this movie is I'd like to have seen a little bit more of Selma and a lot less Goodfellas.
Very good.
I'm John DeSando. Classics, let's go to the movies and share some popcorn.